Hey everybody, it's me, Cosmo the Coder, and welcome to another Humble Bundle review. This week we're going to look at the Humble Clickteam Fusion Bundle, which is a bit of a mouthful to say the least, but at least it's pretty clear, straightforward as what it is. It's basically a bundle that contains not only the Clickteam Fusion game sort of studio, but also a few games and source code as well. Now, if this sounds kind of familiar to the previous sort of Game Maker bundle, then you're not far off, because it is pretty similar in terms of what you are getting, but well, you'll see for yourself once what is actually in the bundle. So, without further ado, let's have a little look and see what we've got, shall we? Okay, pay $1 or more for, first of all, Clickteam Fusion 2.5 Standard Edition. Now, what does that all mean? Well, basically, you get the actual sort of Clickteam Studio, if you want to call it. Basically, it's similar to Game Maker. It gives you the ability to create games using simple things such as drag and drop, clicking, and basically, you don't need to really know any kind of scripting or anything else. You're able to make a game, changing variables and doing all this sort of game physics and actions and everything through the use of simple interfaces and, well, just as that really, simple user interfaces and different things. So you don't actually need to know any kind of thing, scripting or coding or anything else like that. Nothing too complicated anyway. It's currently priced at $59.99 on Steam. I forgot to say, I apologise in advance. I apologise now. I have not got the US prices. It's taking me this long to write the review, all the documentation on it, because there's so many games here, and there's the games in the last week's bundle to get to that I just haven't been able to get the prices for the US. So my apologies for that. I literally have got just about enough time to record this and get it uploaded before I have to go off to bed. So that's, if it bothers you that much, you can look it up yourselves, okay? But, that's the standard of it. Anyway, back to what I was saying. It's 90% on Steam. Now, one thing you do get is you get a $50 coupon on Steam to basically upgrade to Clickteam Fusion 2.5 Developer Edition. Now, essentially what you get with this is you get the whole sort of studio and everything to build your games, but it has a certain limitations, which is always the hook, the thing that they always sort of grab you with. It basically forces you to put the Clickteam Fusion logos and things on your game. The Developer Edition removes that requirement and adds a few extra little bits and pieces for you to sort of do that. Now, how that translates to pounds, I don't know. But I can tell you right now that the Developer Edition is $189.99 in pounds. So even with the $50 sort of knockoff, that's not that big of a chunk when it comes to this. Now, the only issue with this is that voucher is that it expires sort of end of October. So you've literally got like a month to decide whether you want to use it or not. So if you do go for this bundle, you basically got a month to decide if you're A, going to use this piece of software, and B, if you actually want to sort of get the Developer Edition or this discount of Developer Edition. So it's really sort of it sounds a bit silly, it's kind of sort of, you should go and buy the Developer Edition just for the hell of it because you got this voucher, and there's no sort of overall sort of thing that should say you should get it, because it might take you 2 years to make a game that's actually ready, and the voucher is pointless by then. But that's just how I see things. Never mind. You do get, as I said before, some source code and some games. Now, Rocket, as it's hard for me to say with a soft R, is a game that looks a lot like No Man's Sky, but in a sort of 2D comic book-esque game. It's not actually out on Steam yet. It's actually, I think it's due to be greenlit. But it basically combines elements of like Borderlands, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, all the RPGs. Apparently it sort of follows what time you're actually playing it and everything else. It'll look at do different weathers and things like that. So basically, it reacts to what's going on in the real world to a certain degree. It's currently been waiting to be greenlit on Steam, and if so, it will be published. So you're not actually getting a Steam key for this because it's not even out on Steam yet. You're literally getting what I believe is the source code. I'm not exactly sure what you're getting. It's not exactly very clear what you're getting. So I can only assume you're getting the game, or you're getting the ability to plug it into Clickteam and then play the game through the Clickteam game, or what, I don't know. It's kind of confusing, and then there's no obvious sort of note about this. So perhaps once you've actually bought the bundle, you actually find out. But hey. Oniken, if that's even going to be a way of pronouncing it. It's $3.99 on Steam. It's sort of a retro 2D platformer, I think is the best sort of thing. That sort of looks like a sort of homage to the 1980s sort of era of gameplay or cartoons, as you can sort of see from the trailer. It looks fairly similar to, it looks like a sort of crossover between sort of Strider and Metroid, in that you got basically this giant sword and you go around hacking and attacking bad guys. It's fairly well received on Steam, 84% overall. The graphics look, as you can see, sort of fairly 8-bit, some classic Nintendo-esque looking game. One of the sort of common complaints about it, though, is it's fairly hard. The sort of the difficulty level increases quite quickly, so expect to die a lot, basically. Plantera, I've heard a bit of Plantera. I know it's sort of one of those things that it's a game that people enjoy playing. Excuse me. It's because it's sort of a cutesy build your sort of farm sort of game thing, where you basically literally plant plants and sort of do it to attract other creatures to sort of help you. You get coins, you build things. It's a very sort of casual sort of RPG sim game. It's $1.99 on Steam, so not expensive, but well received. 80% recently, 87% overall. Very sort of casual game, something to sort of pass the time if you enjoy sort of things like well, what was it called, Farmville, which I used to play ages ago and sort of gave up because it sort of had no real point. It's a similar sort of game. TikTok Isle is $1.99 on Steam. It's basically a relatively simple sort of adventure game involving a guy called I wrote this down, Strike. You play the game as this guy called Strike, who accidentally sort of travels back in time when he's sent to sort of repair the town's clock, and you have to try and figure out how to fix the clock, as well as fix the rather dysfunctional family that's responsible for causing most of the disrepair in the actual clock. It's got good reviews, 97% overall. Common complaint is it is quite short, and it's not really a sort of a complicated adventure game. Most of the puzzles are very simple and straightforward. So overall, it's more sort of a game for an experience than anything. Oh, and then there's some 2D platforming, you know. Now, finally, jumping the gun there. A game called Necromonads. I'm going with that one, that pronunciation. It's quite simply a 2D arcade side-scrolling space shooter game, which is sort of a very homage again to the sort of 80s-esque space shooter games where you literally just fly around and shoot things, collect stuff, and that's about it, really. It looks pretty much a classic thing. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people don't like the scan lines and the sort of the way the graphics are sort of presented. You can't turn them off, for instance. But overall, it's a nice little shooter. It's got 85% overall, $2.79 on Steam. It's not bad. Yeah, for what especially if you like little games like that. But if you don't, then well, you have to skip it. Now, there is no green tier. You basically have two blue tiers. One at $7, or about £5.40, $5.41, and one at $15 or £11.60. And so the sorry, start again. So for the first blue tier, you basically get 4 games and a sort of add-on to the Clickteam Fusion stuff, which gives you the universal Windows platform sort of module, which is worth, I've got it written down, an astonishing $149.99. And it literally basically gives you the ability to export it onto anything running Windows 10, which includes the Windows phones, the tablets, the PC, and the Xbox One. But you will need a version of Visual Studio. If you don't know what that is, it's basically sort of the coding environment stuff for Microsoft stuff. And if you want to do it for Xbox One, then you need a console with developer console mode activated, whatever that means. But basically, it gives you the ability to export any games you make in Clickteam to Windows. I'm not going to dilly dally anymore. Anyway, moving on. The Yawhg or the Yawhg. I'm not even sure how you're going to pronounce that one. It's essentially, well, it kind of difficult to explain. It's a story-rich sort of adventure game, but where you basically create your own adventure, where it's a sort of a randomized. It randomizes every time you play. So what you basically end up having is exploring with different characters and learning different things about the city as you go around before supposedly the Yawhg finally arrives. It's $6.99 on Steam. It's quite well received, 80% overall, 66 on Metacritic. The common complaint is that it's quite short. You can basically play, I think basically there's like 4 different characters, and you basically play through each character and level them up and sort of do certain RPG-esque elements to that character. But you basically each story sort of lasts 10-15 minutes. And you can play it over and over again and have different sort of storylines. So it's quite unique in that sort of aspect. Whether or not it's any good or not is going to be really up to you and how much you play it. Next up we have, Five Nights at Freddy's 3, which is obviously the sort of the third in the series of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, if you don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, then you obviously didn't really pay much attention to it when it first came out, about everyone sort of playing it and going, "Ah!" Now, I wasn't one of those people because, unfortunately, I don't really play these games and I have no real interest in them. It's a jump scare game, basically. It's a sort of survival horror game where you basically spend a couple of nights in sort of this room, trying to sort of protect yourself from the animatronic creatures that roam the sort of building at night. It's sort of a jump scare sort of esque game. Not terrible game. It's got relatively good reviews. 65% recently, 89% overall, and 68% on Metacritic. It's £5.99. If you enjoy that kind of sort of survival horror-esque games, you might like this, you might not. It kind of divides people sometimes, but personally not one for me. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. Quadle, I'll go with Quadle, is $5.59 on Steam, and it's basically a sort of very similar sort of game to the sort of arcade-esque puzzle games where you basically bounce around on cubes, changing the colour and trying to make them all red. It reminds me a lot of a game I used to play on the Commodore Plus 4, but I can never remember what it's called, where you basically have to paint squares similar to this in a sort of isometric viewpoint. I think the guy was the little person you played was Mexican, but I don't know. It's been a long time since I can remember what it was called. And the Commodore Plus 4 is dead, long dead, but yeah, that's the thing. Anyway, as I was saying, it literally is as simple as that. You get the level editor and you get sort of access to Steam Workshop with it as well. It apparently has some control issues, just to warn you, but you also get the Android version as well as the Steam version. So if you have an Android phone or tablet, then apparently you can play this. It's not quite well received on Steam, 71% overall. A nice little puzzle puzzle by the look of things. And you get the source code, so there you are, a bonus. Room 13. Now, I remember Room 13 from somewhere. I can only assume I got it in a bundle because I actually already own it. It's an early access game on Steam currently for $5.59. It basically is sort of a 2D-esque shooter game where you play as someone who currently has no face, and you basically travel around this sort of mansion searching for answers to what is going on, whilst taking on sort of hordes of undead and shooting them. It's sort of, I can't remember what it was. It's definitely a sort of a very sort of what's the sort of right sort of word? Cartoonesque sort of, as you can see from the visual style. It's sort of a cartoonesque shooter game with various sort of platforming and different sort of power-up elements. You know the kind of you know what I'm talking about. Well received on Steam, 91% overall. Can't say much better than that, really. So moving on then to the final blue tier at $15. You get the Mac version of the Click Team. So if you do have a Mac, you can also develop on that. We also get Concrete Jungle, which is a bit of a weird one, I have to say. It's basically a city planning deck building game is how it's marketed. It's essentially a puzzle game, but where you basically build a city using cards. So essentially, it's a card game, which seems a bit sort of weird in terms of when you're sort of building a similar game to sort of SimCity, but that is exactly what it is. The idea is basically clear city blocks by gathering a number of points, and you get, as you build your city and give people more room to grow. It's that simple. $9.99 on Steam. It's well received, 92% overall, 76% on Metacritic. A fun little puzzle game that may actually encourage me to play a sort of card game for once, but who knows. Next we have a few sort of add-ons for your Clickteam Fusion. You have the HTML5 exporter, which is worth $49.99 on Steam, so it's not too bad of a deal. Saucer Squad is a game that it doesn't appear to have been released yet, so whether or not it's going on Steam or not, I can't say. It's some sort of game where you play as, I can only assume, aliens, and fly around and beam up various objects and various sort of collecting and destroying terrestrial objects before your fleet is recalled. So literally, your alien ships come along, and you have to sort of coordinate them by beaming up various objects. So, yeah, as you can see, it's coming out. The live stream is coming on the 1st of October, so it's not even actually released yet. So overall, you get that. Again, it's not clear what you're getting, but I can only assume that it is after playing checkout. So it looks like you actually get the game, but it's not attached to Steam or anything else in that way. Fusion Shapes looks like the same as well. It's just basically a sort of match 3 game like Bejeweled and Candy Crush Saga. And actually has a tutorial as well. So next up, we've got a game that is on Steam called Environmental Station Alpha, where it's basically an action-adventure platformer, sort of set, again, another sort of pixel art 8-bit-esque game. Very similar to sort of Metroid, where you basically explore an abandoned space station and using a grappling hook and various other sort of tools and weapons. It's fairly straightforward. Well received on Steam, 93% overall. Could definitely another game if you like your 2D platformers. And the last two things are basically add-ons as well. You get the Clickteam Install Creator Pro, so you can actually create things which software will actually install the game for you. So you can create one version for registered users and one version for unregistered users. It's sort of allows you to create installers for various things for your games and everything. And the iOS sort of exporter add-on is it's actually quite expensive. It's $79.99 compared to the HTML5 one, so it lets you actually put your games on mobile devices and anything running iOS. As usual, it does include a 10% off Humble Monthly for new subscribers. There is a competition, but it's basically to do with Clickteam. So part of the reason why this bundle has been released is there's a upcoming sort of Clickteam Weirder Stuff game jam, which you can take part in, sort of, if you sort of use the Clickteam tools and everything. Clickteam tools. Sorry, got something in my eye, and that's not helping. So, overall, what do we think? Well, here's the thing, and like I mentioned the Game Maker bundle earlier, it's kind of a difficult thing to sort of say because you are sort of limited in the sense of what you may or may not want to do. If you bought the Game Maker bundle, you might be thinking, well, I've got that, why would I want Clickteam? And I can't really give you a straightforward answer in that one, because the answer is you might not want to buy the Clickteam bundle for the Clickteam sort of software. You might be more interested in the games than anything, which for me is pretty much the case. As nice as it looks, you know, I just don't have time to develop the game, so I wouldn't buy it just because it's Clickteam stuff. I might buy it because I like the diversity of tools. You know, what one tool Game Maker might be weak in certain areas, and Clickteam might be stronger in certain areas. But overall, it's not a terrible bundle. It's nothing sort of leaping out at me saying buy me, buy me. So overall, I don't know. I'm sort of torn on this, and I've really got to fix that window. In general, though, I think the bundle's quite nice. I'm gonna give it a fair, shall we say, 6 out of 10. You know, nothing terrible. It's nothing sort of terrible about the bundle, but there's nothing sort of leaping out and saying, "Buy me, you must buy me. I'm really good." So, you know, I think that's fair. You know, there's no extension of the bundle, which is why I have reviewed it, which basically leads us now into the extension of the Humble Jumble bundle from last week. And they've added 3 new games. Not necessarily new games. They've added 3 games to this. First up is Agatha Christie: The ABC Murders, which is $10.99 on Steam. It's a point-and-click adventure game where you basically play as Hercule Poirot. And no, I'm not sure if that's the right correct pronunciation. It's, as you can sort of see, it has a good visual style and everything like that. It's you basically search for a serial killer who is by the name of ABC. So it's actually based on Agatha Christie's sort of novels. It's not actually one that's being written. It's got fairly good reviews, 71% on Steam overall. The biggest sort of complaint about it is it's a very simplistic adventure game. The puzzles aren't really that puzzling, and it's all that difficult to solve. You're basically sort of your hands being held as you walk through the game. But it's definitely a game, if you're interested in sort of the murder mystery-esque or even Agatha Christie, might appeal to you in that sort of sense. Elegy for a Dead World is kind of a weird thing to sort of describe. It's essentially an atmospheric sort of exploring game where you basically play the role of an astronaut, or I don't know. It's kind of difficult to sort of explain, but basically you're part of an exploration mission. But there's an accident and you're the sole survivor, and your mission basically remains the same, which is to survey the planets and the places and write the only accounts of them that anyone will ever know. So in other words, you're basically writing sort of fiction about all this information about what you see, what you learn about this planet and civilization, and you can actually share them with other players. It's $10.99 on Steam, pretty much like the previous game. In fact, all of the extra games are $10.99, just sort of in case I forget to mention that. 83% on Steam. It's sort of one of those games that is not for sort of ones looking for action and adventure, but more sort of understanding and learning about sort of different cultures and different sort of who enjoy sort of making different sort of stories, you know. I can't really say much more than that, can I? Finally, we have Roads to Valhalla. Now, this recently came out and has been quite a sort of fun game to watch on streams, especially people who are getting sort of frustrated and tortured by it, because it's a sort of a rhythm-based racing game where you traverse a sort of, I suppose, a level. Basically, so levels full of traps and silly sort of obstacles, and you traverse it basically as a rolling ball. So it's sort of very similar to Marble Madness in a way, but more sort of trap-esque sort of. Oh my god, look out for that sort of thing. Very frustrating sort of game thing. Great reviews, 85% overall, 74 on Metacritic. Definitely one if you're interested into sort of what's the sort of the correct sort of word? Sort of the frustrating sort of puzzle-esque kind of games. You know, you know exactly what kind of game I'm talking about. You know, it looks frustrating as hell, but also fun as hell. Now, since we've actually finished this bundle, we will have a look at reviewing it. Now, last week, like I said, I was going to wait and see what the add-on extra games were, because I own Prison Architect and Punch Club, and Miscreated didn't really appeal to me, being as it was a sort of a multiplayer sandbox-esque game, and I'm not one for that kind of type of game. Overall, I again think there's nothing really wrong with this bundle. You know, it's a nice clean bundle, it's got lots of games. Again, it's not necessarily something that sort of reaches out and grabs you and says, I'm really good. You know, Prison Architect is probably one of them, you know, out of them, sort of Devil Daggers and Prison Architect are definitely ones that I would sort of say are good and definitely worth playing. Punch Club's okay. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is going to be a game that you're going to have to sort of want to play. It's definitely sort of a management feel to sort of the beginning of the bundle, and then you've got sort of 3 games which are sort of puzzles and sort of exploration, so less sort of actiony, more adventure game-esque. Road to Brawlhalla is more sort of a casual game which is sort of expands the genre just a little bit. But there's definitely a management feel to it, especially with like Prison Architect, Stronghold, Punch Club, and Roller Coaster Tycoon. Overall, I can't say it's a bad bundle. It's quite a good bundle, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Personally, because it looks good, it appeals. I actually will buy it for for these games, and I'll have just some spare keys lying around for future giveaways or something. And that, I think, finally is it. And blimey, this is nearly half an hour long. I'm so sorry. Well done if you managed to get through all this. I can't believe I've been talking that long. And I've got to finish up. Anyway, as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope I have been informative and straightforward. Again, apologies that I didn't get around to doing the US pricing. But like I said, it was just simply a case of I just couldn't get to the website and type in all those names and give all the values for it in fast enough, basically. But overall, it hopefully isn't a big loss. As always, like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. I will be back next week with another review. Until then, thanks you guys for watching. I have been Cosmo the Coder, and as always, happy gaming!